The conference room fell completely silent the moment the joke left his mouth. Every pair of eyes turned toward the woman standing at the head of the table, the powerful CEO whose reputation for impossible standards had become legendary throughout the company. The single father who had spoken was already regretting every word, convinced he had just destroyed the only stable job keeping food on his little daughter's table. Then, with a calm smile that no one expected, the CEO looked directly into his eyes and replied, "Only if you're the groom." In that single unforgettable moment, an ordinary workday became the beginning of a story that no one in the building would ever forget. Before we begin this emotional journey, please take a moment to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share this story with someone who believes in kindness and second chances, and subscribe to Hardworking Dad if you believe that one act of kindness can change a person's entire life. Armin Qureshi had never imagined that his life would become a balancing act between boardroom deadlines and bedtime stories. Every morning before sunrise, he prepared breakfast, packed school lunches, braided his 7-year-old daughter Naira's hair with clumsy but determined hands, and hurried to the office before anyone noticed how exhausted he really was. His wife had passed away 3 years earlier after a sudden illness, leaving him with nothing but memories, unpaid medical bills, and a little girl who still whispered goodnight to her mother's photograph every evening. Grief had become a quiet roommate that never moved out, but Armin refused to let it define the childhood of the only family he had left. The company where Armin worked was one of the largest technology firms in the city, led by the brilliant and mysterious CEO, Saira Rahman. Employees admired her intelligence but feared her perfectionism. She rarely smiled, almost never attended social gatherings, and seemed to live entirely for the success of the company. Rumors surrounded her life. Some believed she had sacrificed love for ambition. Others claimed heartbreak had made her build walls no one could climb. Whatever the truth was, everyone agreed on one thing. Saira Rahman never mixed emotions with business. Armin was different from most employees. He never stayed late to impress management because he had a daughter waiting at home. He politely declined after-work parties because bedtime stories mattered more than networking events. Some colleagues quietly mocked him for rushing home every evening, while others secretly admired the way he never complained. Even on the hardest days, he carried a gentle smile that somehow survived every disappointment life handed him. One afternoon the company organized an informal leadership discussion. Employees were encouraged to ask questions in a relaxed atmosphere. Laughter echoed through the room as people exchanged light-hearted comments. Someone jokingly asked what kind of man could ever marry such a demanding CEO. Without thinking, Armin laughed and casually remarked that the boss was definitely marriage material for someone brave enough to survive her interviews. The room erupted with nervous laughter before suddenly falling silent as Saira entered behind him. Everyone expected anger. Instead, she calmly looked at Armin and replied with unexpected confidence that she would only be marriage material if he happened to be the groom. Even she seemed surprised by her own words. The room burst into shocked laughter while Armin's face turned bright red. Although everyone treated it as a joke, something invisible changed in that room. For the first time in years, Saira had laughed without forcing herself. The following weeks became strangely different. Saira began noticing things she had overlooked before. She watched Armin quietly fixing the office coffee machine without taking credit. She noticed him skipping lunch to finish projects before leaving early for his daughter. She saw him comforting a new employee who had made an expensive mistake instead of blaming him. These small moments revealed a man whose greatest strength was not talent but compassion. One rainy evening, Saira happened to leave the office late and found Armin waiting anxiously outside with a broken umbrella. His daughter's school bus had been delayed because of flooding, and every minute felt like an hour to him. Without hesitation, Saira offered her driver and car to bring both father and daughter home safely. It was the first time she met little Naira. Naira greeted the elegant CEO without fear. She thanked her politely, then innocently asked whether she worked too hard because she looked lonely. The question caught Saira completely off guard. Children often spoke truths adults carefully avoided. Instead of feeling offended, she felt something inside her heart crack open. She realized that despite all her success, no one had ever looked at her with such innocent honesty. From that evening onward, unexpected encounters became more frequent. Saira occasionally visited community projects sponsored by the company where Armin volunteered with Naira every weekend. She watched him helping elderly neighbors repair broken fences, distributing food to struggling families, and encouraging children to dream beyond their circumstances. None of these activities appeared on his performance reviews. He never posted about them online. He simply believed kindness was something people should practice quietly. Meanwhile, Naira slowly became comfortable around Saira. She proudly showed her school drawings, talked endlessly about books, and sometimes asked questions that made even successful executives speechless. One afternoon she handed Saira a drawing of 3 people holding hands under a bright blue sky. She explained that one person looked lonely, so she decided to draw them a family because nobody should stand alone forever. Saira carried that drawing home. For the first time in many years, her luxurious apartment felt painfully empty. Awards lined expensive shelves. Designer furniture filled every room. Yet there were no crayon drawings on the refrigerator, no bedtime laughter echoing through the hallway, no photographs capturing messy but beautiful family moments. Success had given her comfort but not connection. As months passed, office gossip exploded. Some employees assumed Armin was trying to gain promotions through favoritism. Others whispered that the CEO had finally lost her judgment. The rumors hurt Armin deeply because his integrity meant everything to him. Rather than enjoying the attention, he requested a transfer to another department to avoid damaging Saira's reputation. When Saira learned about his request, she realized fear was once again pushing happiness away. She invited Armin for a private conversation. Instead of discussing business, they spoke honestly about loneliness, loss, responsibility, and dreams that had quietly disappeared. Armin admitted he still talked to his late wife whenever life became overwhelming because love never truly disappears. Saira confessed she had buried every hope of having a family after watching ambition consume every relationship she had ever known. Neither of them pretended to have perfect answers. Days later, tragedy nearly struck when Naira collapsed during a school sports event due to severe dehydration and exhaustion. Armin rushed to the hospital terrified that history might repeat itself. Before he even arrived, he discovered someone had already handled the emergency paperwork, contacted the best pediatric specialist, and stayed beside Naira's hospital bed. It was Saira. She remained there through the entire night despite having an important international business meeting scheduled the following morning. Watching her gently comfort the frightened little girl revealed a side of herself no employee had ever witnessed. The woman known for billion-dollar decisions quietly read children's storybooks until sunrise. Naira recovered quickly, but something permanent had changed between the 3 of them. One bright Saturday afternoon, they visited a park where families filled the walking paths with laughter. While children flew colorful kites across the blue sky, Naira suddenly ran ahead before turning around with the biggest smile on her face. She shouted that happiness looked much better when people shared it together. Neither adult responded immediately because both understood the deeper meaning behind her innocent words. Months later, during the company's annual celebration, Saira surprised everyone by delivering the shortest speech of her career. Instead of speaking about profits, expansion, or market leadership, she thanked employees who reminded her that true success was measured not only by achievements but by the people willing to stand beside you when life became difficult. Then she invited Armin onto the stage. The audience expected another business announcement. Instead, Saira admitted that one unexpected joke had forced her to confront a life she had spent hiding behind. She confessed that the strongest man she had ever met was not the one with the highest position or wealth but the father who chose bedtime stories over overtime and kindness over recognition. Before hundreds of stunned employees, she asked whether he still remembered that old joke. Armin smiled through tears. This time there was no nervous laughter. There was only hope. He gently answered that sometimes life writes better endings than people dare imagine. Months later, beneath warm daylight surrounded by friends, co-workers, neighbors, and children laughing beneath white flower decorations, Armin and Syra exchanged wedding vows. There were no extravagant celebrity performances or luxurious displays meant to impress strangers. The most unforgettable moment came when little Naira proudly walked between them carrying the same childhood drawing she had once given Syra. Only now, the three figures holding hands were no longer imaginary. They were real. Years later, visitors entering the company headquarters noticed one small frame displayed outside the CEO's office. It contained a faded crayon drawing of three smiling people beneath a bright blue sky. Beneath it appeared a simple message that every new employee quietly stopped to read. Success builds companies. Kindness builds families. Never forget which one matters most. The story spread far beyond office walls because people realized it had never been about wealth, promotions, or status. It was about a tired father who refused to stop believing in goodness, a lonely woman brave enough to open her heart again, and a little girl whose innocent love healed wounds that adults believed would last forever. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a heartfelt comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Hardworking Dad so we can continue bringing you inspiring stories that remind us kindness still exists in this world. Special request, comment below with the words, "Kindness always wins," if you believe love can find us even after life's hardest storms. Sometimes the greatest miracles do not arrive with loud celebrations or dramatic promises. They appear quietly through ordinary people who choose compassion over pride, family over fear, and hope over heartbreak. A single joke that could have ended one man's career instead became the first chapter of a beautiful family, proving that life often writes its happiest endings when we least expect them. And somewhere, beneath another bright daytime sky, three people walked hand in hand, grateful that second chances are real for those who never stop believing in love.